David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. In the pen world, there are companies who have a few similar models and then produce like new versions of those for their new offerings. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then there are other companies who continually come out with completely new and unique designs. I would categorize the manufacturer of the pens I have for you today under that latter category. That company is the Japanese-based Wancher, and the two pens I have today are from their new Kaleido collection, which I believe is their least expensive pen that they have produced to date. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Kaleido, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks from Wancher for providing the pens you will see today for review. The pen arrives in this soft wooden box. I always love these boxes. Whenever I see these boxes, inevitably there's something cool inside. There is some Japanese writing on the outside. I actually tried to use Google Translate on my phone, but over here it translated as special potato writing equipment. I have a feeling that in reality it says something different, but I thought that was funny. Inside, there are a couple of things. There is a little use and care guide, some warranty information, as well as a cute little packet of 3 cartridges. And then we have the pen. This is the Wancher Kaleido. It is actually available in 5 different models. There is the Japanese cherry blossoms with a lot of pinks and greens and white. Then there is the Night Festival with colors that represent fireworks in a night sky. There is Ocean Waves with some deep blue and accents of white. There is the Poetic Garden with a gradient of blue and green. And finally, there is the Transparent and Blue Resin Summer Sky. I have 2 of the models here with me. I have the Poetic Garden and the Summer Sky. There are some interesting things about both of these materials used in these pens. What I will call the cracked ice technique typically isn't my favorite, but I feel it really works on these particular models. I think the gradient from the blue to the green and back to the blue looks really natural. It doesn't come across as forced. The chunks add a really great deal of depth to the material. Then with the Summer Sky here, I really like what they did. You see, with this cracked ice technique, you take some resin, you chop it up, and then you put it back into the mold and pour another resin basically to bind everything back together again. I might be simplifying the process a bit, but you get the idea. With this Summer Sky, the material is a clear transparent resin with the binding resin to be the blue. I think that makes for a rather cool look that I don't think that I've seen before. Also, this isn't the typical material I think of when I'm thinking about a Japanese pen and what it should look like. That's not a bad thing. It's just a little bit different than it's expected. The name Kaleido comes from 2 Greek words meaning beautiful and shape. Wancher is stated with this pen line, their goal is to create something affordable and stylish. Just for the sake of this review, let's take a look at the Summer Sky. It's hard to see in pictures, but the pen is faceted. There are 12 facets encircling the pen, and it is a rather girthy pen. It's not small in the hand. Let's start by taking a look at the top of the cap. There it is fitted and inlaid with a silver disc commemorating Wancher's 10-year anniversary. I believe the first 100 pens in this series will have this disc. Now, I'm not certain if that's 100 of each model or just 100 in total across all models, but it's a nice little touch. The edge of the top is beveled and then transitions into the cap. There is no clip or roll stop on this pen. The cap is straight, and as I mentioned before, it's faceted. There's no exterior branding on the pen other than the cap insert, and there's no band either. The end of the cap transitions smoothly into the barrel. There is a single cap thread, and so the facets line up every single time you cap the pen, which is nice. The barrel is straight, and at the end, it's flat with a beveled edge. The cap twists off. Now, this is something I noticed right away, that it takes 6 full rotations to remove the cap. While I am all for keeping the cap secure, 6 rotations seems like a bit of overkill. There's times when it just feels like it's taking forever to cap or uncap the pen. With this pen, I've actually found myself getting in the habit of twisting both the barrel and cap in opposite directions when removing the cap. That way it only takes 3 rotations to remove the cap, which is still a lot. I've actually shared this feedback with Wancher, and I feel that they agree that it's a bit much, so they're working to potentially improve that aspect of the design in future models. Once you do remove the cap, you can see here there is a spring-loaded inner cap to help reduce the nib's exposure to air. I will say that with some Wancher pens in the past, the spring action was a bit much. You could actually push down on the cap, and if you would let it go, it would literally jump off. With this model, however, I feel it's much more under control. Capping and uncapping feel a little bit more natural in regard to the spring tension. And then we have the nib. It is a number 6 Jowo nib available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, as well as 1.1 and 1.5 stubs. You have a choice of either the stainless steel look or one colored gold. I think that it's nice that they give you a choice. I personally prefer silver nibs on most pens, but for something like the Poetry Garden, which is its greens and reds, I feel the gold matches well with the resin of that pen. At an additional cost, there are some gold nib options for this pen. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. For an additional cost, there is ebonite feed options in either black or red as well. The section is concave and not overly long. It transitions into the cap and a rather large step up to the remainder of the barrel. While the section is what I would describe as average in thickness, I wish it was slightly thicker. It would make it a bit more size appropriate for this rather girthy pen, and it would make the transition from the threads to the barrel seem a little less steep. Despite the overall size of the pen, it is rather light. It's not overly heavy at all. The pen is plenty long enough to use unposted, which is a good thing because the cap is not designed to post. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, 3 of which are provided, and a converter is included as well. This pen has no interior metal parts, so it would be perfect to eyedropper, especially this Summer Sky model where you would get a good look at the ink sloshing about through the transparent portions of the resin. The Wancher Kaleido is available only through the Wancher site. I'll put a link to it in the notes below. And the pen retails for $100, which I believe makes it the least expensive of Wancher's offerings. I like that price range for this pen. I like that the size and weight of the pen are a little bit larger than normal for them. And I think that the resin choices they made look very, very nice. I wish the cap would require fewer turns, but the overall build quality of this pen is decent. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. So here we go with some size comparisons for the Wancher Kaleido. I wanted to give you another close-up look at this material. You know what? Let me take this out just so you can kind of see how it is transparent. And I just really think that this pen would be a great pen to eyedropper. But in regard to some size comparisons, this one was the that was the Summer Sky, and then here is the Poetic Garden. It has a really nice gradient going on here. And then in regard to the rest of the size comparisons, here it is with a Wancher Kie Arushi, which is one of my favorite models of theirs. Then there is the Primo. And then finally here, this is the Sakai, which is just a slightly smaller than some of the other standard pens that they've come out with. And then in regard to some non-Wancher pens, here it is with a 3776 from Platinum. That's the Carnelian Red. Here is a TWSBI Eco. And then here is a Lamy Safari. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Kiei Urushi. I mentioned before that I like, but this is a real leaf that they put on here. I just think that's pretty cool. This is the 3776 from Platinum, and then here is the Lamy Safari. Here we go with the writing sampler for the Wancher Kaleido. This right here is a 1.1 stub, and the ink that I'm using today is from Private Reserve. Had a little bit of a skip there. And this is the neon blue. Sometimes if you don't quite hold it flat, especially on these 1.1s, it has a bit of a sweet spot that you need to stay in. This is what the neon blue looks like. Private Reserve recently came out with a line of neon inks. This is the neon green, and then neon pink. And then there is the neon fuchsia, which is one of my favorite of the batch. And here is the neon orange. And then finally the neon yellow, which is basically like a highlighter ink. This is what the bottles look like. They come in 60 milliliter bottles, very large neck, so there's no problem in getting nibs of any size in here. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I do like that with the 1.1, it kind of effortlessly gives your handwriting a little bit of flair to it. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of here, but you will see the downward strokes are thicker and the horizontal strokes are more narrow. In regard to ink flow, it is decent. In regard to reverse writing, not all 1.1s work well reverse. This one does. It's actually very smooth. And then in regard to some fast writing, looks like it did kind of lose its momentum here for a second, and it needed to catch up. There we go. And then in regard to the Poetry Garden model, I actually have this one loaded up with the green. So let's just... And I just thought that this neon green matched this pen a little bit better. So there we have the Wancher Kaleido. I'll put a link to the Wancher site where you can find these pens in the notes below. At the $100 price range, I think that that's a very reasonable price for what you receive with these pens. It's something a little bit different. It's not your normal standard fare, and that I really like the material that's on here as well. So it's worth taking a closer look at. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.